Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explain series. I am Kushagra Goel. And yesterday I was overwhelmed with all your wishes and wishing all of you once again Happy New Year from the family of Law Prep Tutorial. Now a lot of you had doubts yesterday, so I am going to take assistance of the mobile phone and noted down some doubts because it was difficult to remember all of them. So I'll go one by one, okay? So one doubt a student had was with this line, okay, in an editorial: subsidized power and loop-sided incentive structure have built cropping patterns that are no longer sustainable. What is this talking about? There are three things that you need to know from this. Subsidized power. So for example, farmers get subsidized power, that they don't have to pay for the power bills that or the electricity that consumes. So that is what it means by subsidized power. And loop-sided incentive structure. So yesterday when we had talked about the main editorial, it mentioned about these cropping structures, for example, subsidy structure, where we had done an analysis comparison of United States, Europe and India, and how Indian subsidies are not given for value addition. That is, your subsidy is, as per the author, supposed to be something that adds value. What do I mean by add value? So for example, currently you are a businessman and you are producing 100 mobile phones per day, okay? Then I give you an incentive of subsidy in the form of power. I'll be like, you take free electricity and I will, so that should lead to ideally by value addition to from 100 to let's say 110 mobile phones per day or 120. So that is the kind of structure the author envisions subsidies should be, okay? Have built cropping patterns that are no longer sustainable. What is the background of this? The background of this is India today produces more food grains of wheat and rice than Indians can actually consume. We had over the month of December and November talked about, for example, how the FCI has 2.6 times of the stock limit that it needs to have. So it has that much amount of extra grain and that rots away. But because of the structure that we have and in general we are now producing more crop than we need. Instead there could be, from the author's position, other crops that can be produced that would have better effect, or things that would increase the productivity of farmer sector in general, okay? So that is what the statement is. It is policy based, but these are terms that need to be understood, okay? Then one by one I'll talk about other things. Fiscal deficit. See, I have talked about fiscal deficit a number of times. Fiscal deficit is simple: the earnings of the government and the expenditure of the government. When the government is spending more than what it earns, then it creates a fiscal deficit. Fiscal is money, deficit is when you have a lack of money. So for example, government has to pay all of us 100 rupees and it only earns 95, okay? So 5 rupees is a fiscal deficit of the government. So when we talk about government of India having fiscal deficit of 130% or something, then that means the total deficit of the country. When the budget will be announced, we will also have figures, for example, fiscal deficit vis-a-vis the GDP figure. So how much expenditure we are doing vis-a-vis or in comparison with our earning, okay? So that means fiscal deficit. Another doubt, methane hydrate. So when we were talking about this news about government approving, the cabinet committee approving more ethanol and other things, so there this term of methane hydrate, it is also known as fire ice. What is methane hydrate? Methane hydrate is methane plus water, okay? So when we separate this through mining or other industrial processes, we get methane. Methane can be used to produce energy or in natural gas or combustion, okay? So methane is something that can be used for industrial or electricity production. Methane hydrate is a compound that is found deep sea or anywhere else. So when we talked about deep sea mining also some days ago, that is also a compound that industries are after, okay? Another doubt, index of industrial production. Index of industrial production is basically the parameters, different industries, what is their growth of each industry, okay? Now figures of December and November will be out in a short while when the new updated index of industrial production will be provided. I assure you I will talk about it in more detail. As of now, you can understand telecom industry or health sector or education sector or electricity, petroleum sector. So their growth in comparison to previous year. So for example, in 2020, these are hypothetical figures, industry produced 120 liter tons of or liters of petroleum, okay, crude oil, and in 2019 they were producing 100, so 20 extra, right? So that is 20% rise. So that is what index of industrial production measures for us, okay. Another doubt that a lot of you had was with regards to relevance of these obituaries, person in news that I talk about, or sporting events, okay. So see, you will not be asked directly with regards to, may not be asked directly with regards to, for example, who passed away, right? But for example, Indo-China border dispute is there, India-Pakistan border dispute is always in news. Then you can be asked about Siachen, because the corridor, the LOC and the LAC are in northern India, right? Jammu and Kashmir, and there is where the Siachen glacier is. Under what operation was Siachen glacier captured? Meghdut, right? Operation Meghdut that we talked about yesterday. Who was the deputy leader of India's first successful Mount Everest expedition? What year was it? Or what do I mean by these awards? So these are related things that you need to know, even if not essentially you will be asked what are the awards this person received when he passed away. No, not such questions, but related things, and that is why we cover them, so that your bases are covered, okay. Similarly with sporting events, the same logic applies, okay. You may not be asked specific date of an event, but you can be asked who has been given hosting rights, what are this controversy. For example, Olympics are supposed to be held this year, so little bit of static history, general knowledge about Olympics in general, Indians who receive Olympic medals, all of that becomes part of your related news and can be asked. So be always on a safer side to know more. Knowing more doesn't harm us, and therefore we cover all these bases, okay. So on that note, now let's dive into today's newspaper, okay. On the left hand side, there is update about farmer protest where they are stating that they will intensify their protest if the government does not listen to their demand. But the main news is on the left hand side, okay. Expert panel gives go ahead for Covishield. We have talked about Covishield multiple times. We will link all those links for you in the description box today. Also today, from today onwards, you will be able to access the Google Drive, which will have database, so you can cover previous topics easily, okay. We will talk about Covishield in more depth. I have done a detailed video about explaining the process of vaccine approval in India, and we have talked about all these vaccines in depth, okay. Covaxin, Covishield, AstraZeneca, Oxford Institute, all the manufacturers of these vaccines. Nevertheless, I will do a brief revision of it today, and for your benefit will link all those videos in the description box so that you can check all of them out, okay. We will revisit this. Another thing that is happening today is a dry run for the vaccine across the country in all the states and union territories. So on 28-29 December of 2020, dry run was there in 4 states, right. We had talked about it on 27, 28 and 29th December. If you don't know, go check that out. Now today is the dry run across all states to see what is our preparedness for vaccine approval, okay. Moving on, apart from that, there is cold wave going on in northern India, and there is not much news for us on the national front on that area. There is updates about vaccine preparedness, who is being given. See, these are pictures of the test center for vaccine dry run where vaccines will be administered, okay. Then there are about updates about vaccine fraudsters. So see, this is something not related to CLAT but on a general health awareness. Government of India will be the one registering the people who have to be administered for the vaccine, and government will be administering the vaccine, okay. So if you come across anyone telling you he will get you vaccine or get you COVID vaccines, or you hear it on any family groups or somewhere, tell them that it will be on the CoWIN platform by Government of India, and only government will be the one administering the vaccines as of now, okay. First it will be the frontline workers, then people above the age of 60, then people below the age of 60 with comorbidities, okay. But all of that is for later time. Be aware, spread awareness about fake vaccines, okay. Then moving on, apart from that, there is political news only or preparation, see dry run preparation for vaccine program, all of that is there in the news. Okay. Then on the editorial front, okay, there are two editorials that matter to you all. This is about ordinance promulgation and the anti-conversion law that has been passed by the state of Uttar Pradesh. Okay, it is written by ex Supreme Court Judge MJ Madan Lokar. So we will be talking about that. And on the left hand side, there is another, the second dose while allowing emergency use, India should devise a vaccine policy suited to its need. Okay. So also I will be explaining this in a little bit more depth because there is some technicalities that you need to understand in general. Okay. Apart from that, on the left hand side on the editorial front, there is news, clear connection, have got the interconnection charges is out of the way. Telecos should now focus on service quality. So what has happened, TRAI has updated its service rules where interconnection usage charges. So for example, till now if you were using a Jio customer or you were Airtel or Vodafone and you contacted someone of another telecom service. So for example, I have Jio or Airtel and I call someone with Vodafone. So the Jio or Airtel have to pay 6 paisa per minute to Vodafone. Okay, so that charges have been done away with by TRAI. Okay, so what is now this editorial telling us is that after this extra charges are gone, what the government should be focusing on is giving more spectrum for 4G and facilitating the expansion of 5G network, plus making sure telecos move away from 2G and 3G technology to 4G technology, plus asking the telecom companies to update their services, to have a wider network of services for 4G, provide people with cheaper 4G handsets so that they can upgrade to 4G network. Okay, so it's a policy editorial, not really relevant from our perspective, but I am explaining it nevertheless. Okay, then on the left hand side, taking note of farmer welfare the Kerala way. Now this is the editorial by CPI National Council Binoy Viswan. Okay, he is a secretary there, so he's member of the Communist Party of India. Now he is responding to allegations. Recently Prime Minister Modi had talked about how the state of Kerala does not have APMC mandis and even there the farmers are not protesting. So in light of that, this is what the government has because CPI, Kerala is being governed by CPI, so the response is there about this. What it tells us in general is that even if APMC mandis are not there, what it means is the MSP structure is still there and Kerala pays far more than what the government or any other pays. Okay. Plus it also points out how, for example, in Bihar APMC mandis are not there since 2006 and the farming income or farmer structure there or the agricultural economy there is in shambles. So it is a counter narrative to the farmer bills in general. Okay. And talking about how the farmers in general have been very brave. Okay, so it's a political article in general. What we need to know is that, see, three facts have been stated here. One, Kerala does not have APMC mandis but has a MSP structure, that is government does procure agricultural produce from the farmers. APMC mandis are what? They are a place where traders are registered and produce is sold and purchased at that place. Now even if APMC mandi is not there, the purchase of or government procurement or MSP structure, that is the minimum price at which a farmer should get, still exist in Kerala. Similarly, APMC mandis do not exist in Bihar. And another fact which has been told is how the farm bills now in place since June 2020 have led to 40% mandis in Madhya Pradesh not having a single transaction. So something that farmers have been talking about in against the farm bills is that this will kill the APMC mandis in general. So this is what it proves. Okay. Recently also there was a news about a scam of farmers not actually being paid by private companies. Now this is a case that had been in news about Sister Abhaya's murder, and this is an entire story of how it unfolded, what these different judgment is. It's a criminal case, okay, but it's a high profile case, so that is something that has been talked about in depth. Okay, so moving on to the other national news, schools opened in Kerala and Karnataka for classes 10 and 12. We had talked about it on 31st. Different states have been opening segregated level of so for example in West Bengal movie theaters had already been opened, in Kerala they have not been opened. So different states have allowed different permissions. On the left hand side the news for GST collections touch all time high in December. Okay, so this is also from the fact that the reason why GST collections are higher in December this year is also because the deadline for filing income tax returns is in January. So those collections or clearance data will be in December. Okay, so it's economic news, not much to read for our perspective on the academic front. Okay, then there is Prime Minister Modi talked about yesterday launching a lighthouse scheme plus affordable housing with, and he stated that affordable houses for middle and poor urban dwellers will be established, 1000 houses to be built in the city of Indore, Rajkot, Chennai, Ranchi, Agartala and Lucknow. Okay, so this is a policy project that the Prime Minister announced yesterday, and in 12 months it will be announced. Another update was with regards to Central Rental Housing Complex project. It was launched first in Surat, where rental housing complexes will be provided to migrant laborers. Okay, apart from that, this is an update with regards to stranded sailors in China who are stuck on Australian vessels. China has banned Australian coal import of from Australia, and in light of that those sailors are stranded at China. So India has asked for assistance of them. Okay, and then in 2020 Rajya Sabha saw the lowest number of sittings ever, which was the total number was 33 days in total, which is too low for a country. The upper house, which is Rajya Sabha, is supposed to be the permanent house. Okay, so then there are details about when it was last met and all. Okay, this time the winter session was cancelled. The last time it happened was in 1985. So these are just figures for us to understand. Okay, apart from that, on the national front there is not much news for us. Okay, the trial of and extradition of Thavar Rana, accused in the 26/11 attacks, has been postponed. Okay, on the international front again there is not much news for us, any real updates. Okay, so this is now a Republican Party moving away from Trump policies. Already 2024 presidential race hopefuls have been announced. Then travel ban and all that, policy updates from United States. Okay, not really any concrete news. Similarly, United Kingdom is now facing a huge storm of COVID cases. It has been reporting 50,000 plus new cases on a daily basis. Okay, the population of United Kingdom is far less. So when such high figures are reached, which is their highest in general, is something of a crisis for their country. Even if vaccination approval has been and the drive has been going on in United Kingdom, and 1 million people have already been administered the COVID vaccine. Okay, on the economic and the sporting front again no new news for us, apart from this that Rohit Sharma will now be the stand-in vice captain for the upcoming 2 test matches in India, Australia. Okay, so I will move on to the in-depth analysis. Okay, so with regards to Covishield, okay, there are just very basic updates that I am giving here about the vaccine. It is produced by AstraZeneca, US pharmaceutical company, and Oxford University. At Jenner Institute of Oxford University is the brainchild of this vaccine. What is the vaccine using? It is using a mutated common cold virus. Okay, and it can be stored from 3 to 8 degrees Celsius, something that is an upper hand from the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine has to be kept at -70. Moderna vaccine can be kept, for example, for 30 days at room temperature, which is 3 to 8, normal refrigeration. Okay, the efficacy of this vaccine is lower than the than the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, which is 62 to 70%. Okay, then moving on, you will find description of the links when I have talked about this vaccine in detail. Okay, so don't worry about that, revise your knowledge there. Moving on to the next news, which is about efficacy. Okay, so this editorial is talking about a new concept of efficacy. Okay, a delayed vaccine administration. Okay, So what is efficacy? I have explained it, but nevertheless, percentage of people not contracting COVID. So 100 people were given the vaccine, only 30% people contracted the disease. So that means the vaccine is effective on 70% people, okay. Now, the vaccines that have been approved have 2 doses. All vaccines that have been approved are 2 doses, okay, that you get 1 dose, and then after some days or weeks you will be given the second dose, and only then you will be protected from COVID-19, okay. Now, there is update that original efficacy trials of the AstraZeneca vaccine that has been approved in India is that 4 weeks apart. For example, first dosage given on January 1 and then 4 weeks apart, that is on January 28th if you are given the next dose, the efficacy of the vaccine is 62%, okay. But there is new not verified news is that if it is given beyond 4 weeks, okay, that is up to 12 weeks, then the efficacy of the vaccine increases. That if you are given the first dose on January 1 and then second dose is between February 5 to March 10, that is 5 to 12 weeks beyond, okay, then the efficacy of the vaccine increases by 10%, okay. So United Kingdom, in order to reduce the spread of the virus, because the UK strain, the new strain, is a super spreader, it spreads faster, to protect people from COVID in general, have done this, okay. So this year this editorial tells us that a lot of new things have been done, which is that earlier vaccine creation used to take years, but now for COVID-19 within a year of a disease vaccines are available already. Now that is also something novel that scientific community has done. This effort of vaccine prolongedness, that is administering the second dosage at a later point of time, is also an innovation which United Kingdom has adopted. India has not adopted any such thing. What the editorial tells us or suggests is that India should decide what works better for it and then take a decision. For example, United States has stated that they do not believe this is something that is relevant. They will continue with the original format of giving the vaccine 4 weeks apart, because companies have stated, that is Pfizer and Moderna, that first dosage is only effective for 21 days, okay. So in general you have to understand what this prolongedness is talking about, and generally the term efficacy of the vaccine, okay. If there are any doubts about this process, let me know in the comment section, okay. Now moving on to the last news, which is the main editorial. The most important thing for you all here is ordinance making power, okay. Ordinance making power is for 2 individuals, constitutional authorities given to 2 offices, the governor's office and the presidential office, okay. For governor it is article 213 and for the president it is article 123, okay. So you can jumble up the numbers and easily remember it. And what is the condition? There are 3 conditions that need to be satisfied. First, the legislature is not in session, that both the houses or the Vidhan Sabha, if there is no legislative council in a state, then they are not in session. Secondly, there are circumstances that exist for which a ordinance is need to be adopted, okay. And lastly, it is of immediate action, it warrants immediate action, okay. Now what this editorial is talking about is how the Uttar Pradesh government's anti-conversion law, there was no real need of it to being brought under the ordinance route, in the sense that it reduces the value or the urgency of ordinance in general, okay. It dilutes the power and reduces the power of legislature. Legislature is the place where laws have to be made. When ordinance are promulgated, it is the executive that makes the laws, okay, and that is why it is something of an exception. And right now with the Uttar Pradesh anti-conversion law and a lot of other states following suit, they have bifurcated or bypassed the legislature power and drafted or promulgated laws through executive route, okay. So then there is analysis of the problem sections of the Uttar Pradesh anti-conversion law. Those things are not something that is really relevant, because you will not be asked about to testify or do an in-depth it's not a subjective question, okay, because the court has not decided, it is the opinion of the author. What is most relevant for you all is the ordinance making power and how it matters, okay. But nevertheless, if you have any doubts about the editorial in general, let me know. In general, there are two problematic sections that this is talking about, which is section 3 and section 7, okay. We have discussed. So for example, section 3 talks about prohibition conversion attempt. What is conversion by marriage, okay. So simply there is no definition that is given of conversion by marriage. When you marry someone, it does not mean you are converting to their religion. Marriage is a event in general, is a social contract that does not automatically lead to, for example, change of religion, okay. That is not the status quo or law. So that is something that is open to interpretation or problematic. Secondly, section 7 provides that upon receiving information. Now what is sort of information? So even if, for example, an individual needs to convert, so for example, I decide that I will become an atheist from now on, okay. So for that, under the UP law, I have to go and inform the district magistrate for 2 months in advance, and for that I have to explain him why I am doing this. Now that is something, see, in general, why is this problematic is because you will be giving a lot of your personal details to the district magistrate and the society at large, things that I may not want to disclose, right? My address or other details as to why I am, it's a personal choice that I want to make, right? So for example, B.R. Ambedkar had converted in 1955-56 a mass conversion from Hinduism to Buddhism because he believed that there is a lot of emancipation that takes place within Hinduism. So he had done a mass conversion. Imagine then B.R. Ambedkar going to the district magistrate and telling him 2 months in advance, see, I want to convert, these are my reasons, and then the magistrate tells him, no, your reasons are not sufficient. So this is what the editorial is talking about, that how this is all problematic in general. But all of that is not relevant from CLAT perspective. What is most relevant is the ordinance making power, okay. In general, we have covered the UP anti-conversion law, and I have told you about right to choice and the case of Shafeen Jahan versus Ashokan KM multiple times. So remember that and keep revising all of that, okay. So on this note, I will sign off for the day. As told you yesterday, you will now be able to access the database about the videos that we have covered and all the details about them, and do your revision based on that. And secondly, description about COVID vaccine and the AstraZeneca and approval mechanism in India, which I have also explained, will be there in the description box today. So on that note, thank you so much. If you like the work that we are doing, do give this video a thumbs up, and if you are one of those who haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do subscribe to it. Thank you.